Good morning everyone, welcome to your maths lesson today and welcome to your measures masterclass. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about length, weight, temperature and capacity, okay? And we're going to start with length. So when we're measuring length, we're thinking about how long, short, tall, how high or height, and how wide things are. We use rulers and tape measures to measure, and we measure shorter things in centimetres, which we can also write as cm, and we measure longer things in metres, which we can write as m. So let's have a look at our measures table. So if you come round this way, I've got a book, okay? And I'm going to measure the length and the width of the book in centimetres. And I've got a tape measure. Now if you look at the tape measure, each one of these small numbers is a centimetre. And if we go all the way to 100, where is it? There it is. 100 centimetres is the same as 1 metre. But this is shorter, so I'm going to measure in centimetres. So if we look, got it across, and we can see that the book is 21 centimetres wide. What about the length? Top of the scale, we go up to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 centimetres long. Now, with my Weetabix box, I'm going to measure the height because it stands up. So it's from this point to this point. Again, I'm going to use centimetres because it's not too tall. And if we go into there, right to the top, can you see the 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 centimetres tall. Now, the last thing I'm going to measure in terms of length is the TV. Okay, now the TV is longer, wider, so I'm going to get my metre out. So that's a metre. And if we look over my shoulder, I can extend it along. It's 1 metre and 9 centimetres. Okay, can you see that? We get to 100, so that's 1 metre, and then it's 9 more centimetres. Okay, so we measure length in centimetres and metres. Pause the video now and explain how we measure length. Right, now let's move on to temperature. Okay, when we're measuring temperature, we use a thermometer, and we are measuring how hot or how cold something is. And in the UK, we measure temperature in degrees Celsius, and Celsius always has a capital C, remember that. And we write it like this, degrees C. So this small circle here, it's not a 0 or the letter O, it's a small circle and it means degrees centigrade, okay? So if we look at our measuring table, now I've got a thermometer here, but this is a body temperature thermometer and it won't work for this, but I'll show you some pictures later. So I've got a cup of tea, a glass of water from the tap straight away, and a glass of ice water. Pause the video and talk to your grown-up. Which do you think is the hottest and which do you think is the coldest? What did you think? Well, the coldest is the iced water. And the ice, if you come and have a look at the ice in the glass has a temperature of 0 degrees. Really, really cold, okay? Now, let me have a taste of that. Yeah, that feels nice and cold. Right, the water at room temperature straight out the tap has a temperature of 22 degrees, okay? Let's see what that feels like. Yeah, not hot, not cold, just normal. And that's about the temperature of your room, okay? And finally, my cup of tea in my favourite Back to the Future mug. Now that's about 80 degrees, so I'm going to be really careful with this. Give it a blow first. Oh yeah, that's straight from the kettle, so that's 80 degrees. Now when it comes from the kettle, it's 100 degrees, so you need to be very careful with that hot water. So, pause the video now and explain to your grown-up how we measure temperature. Hello, now this is the third way we're going to look at measurement today, and we're going to look at weight. When we measure the weight of something, we think how heavy or light it is, and another way of saying the weight of something is its mass, okay? And to measure weight or mass, we use scales, and there's lots of different types of scales. I'm going to show you one in a second. We measure lighter things in grams, which we can write with a G, heavier things in kilograms, which we can write kg, and 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram. Okay, so let's have a look here. Got some butter, sugar and flour, and I'm going to measure the butter first, okay? So I'm going to turn my scales on. Okay, and it's on grams. Can you see the small g? It's on 0. And if we read the scale, it says 253 grams. So the butter weighs 253 grams. Okay? Let's have a look at the sugar. Okay, do you think it's heavier or lighter? Shall we see? Can you read the scale? The sugar weighs 511 grams. So it's heavier than the butter. Now, what about the flour? Is it going to be heavier or lighter? So let's put that on the scales. Oh, amazing. So this flour weighs 1,535 grams. Now, what did we say before? 1,000 grams is a kilogram. So this flour is 1 kilogram and 536 grams. So if you come and look at the scale again, it's 1 kilogram, the 1,000, 537 grams. Okay? So, the lightest was the butter, the heaviest was the flour, and both of these were measured in grams. This, because it's heavier, was measured in kilograms. Pause the video now and explain to your grown-up how we measure weight and mass. Welcome back to the final instalment of our measuring masterclass. Now we are going to be measuring capacity. Now when we measure capacity, we're thinking about how much space something takes up. If it's full or empty. And another word for capacity is its volume, okay? And we use measuring jugs usually, or measuring cylinders to measure capacity and volume. We measure in millilitres, ml, for things that haven't got much capacity, and we measure in litres for larger capacities, and we can write L. And 1,000 millilitres is equal to 1 litre, okay? Let's have a look at what we've got on the table. So I've got a jug, I've got a goblet, and I've got a small bowl. And I'm going to use a measuring jug to measure the capacity of each of these. Now if you come in, it's got 2 scales. It's got pints and litres. Now this goes up to half a litre, and all of these small numbers, 100, 200, 300, 400, are millilitres, okay? So let's see which has the greatest capacity. Pause the video now. Which do you think has the greatest capacity, which has the least capacity? Okay, right, let's find out. I'm going to start with the blue bowl. I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to pour it into the jug. Oh, now if you come in, I can see, ooh, it's between 300, I'll put it down on the table maybe, 300 and 400 millilitres, halfway between. So it must be 350 millilitres, okay? 350 millilitres. That's the blue bowl. The goblet, let's find out the goblet, shall we? Oh, if you come in, can you see where the scale is? We're reading the litre scale, and it's 200 millilitres, okay? So that's the goblet. And the small jug, easy to pour from this one. I've just put some juice in so you can see the scale. Oh, I'm surprised. Actually, look at that one. That has a capacity of 200 millilitres too. So I'm going to pour that back in. So what have we learned? We've learned that the small jug and the goblet had the same capacity of 200 millilitres, and the blue bowl had the greatest capacity with 350 millilitres. Now, just got a couple of bottles to show you. So this is a bottle, it's got a greater capacity, so we measure this in litres, and if we look at the back, it's 1.75 litres, which means that it has a capacity of nearly 2 litres, okay? And this bottle here, it's empty now, but if it was full, it would have a capacity of 1 litre, and if you have a look on the back, it tells you the capacity, okay? So, let's go back to our measure wall. Or before we do that, pause the video and tell your grown-up how we measure capacity. Right, finally, let's just have a look at our word wall and make sure you know for length what units we use, for weight what units we use, for temperature what units we use, and for capacity what units we use. Hope you've enjoyed that. Bye.